Usually, the most lurid creations of the world of pop music have been the first to vanish. This evening, he turns his attention to the guitarist Keith Richards.
They told him it would kill him. Doctors warned him. Friends begged him. He survived heroin busts, near-death overdoses, and decades of relentless touring. Yet at 80 years old, Keith Richards still hasn't quit the one habit that doctors insist should have killed him long ago. How does a man who personified rock and roll's most destructive lifestyle continue to defy science? In this video, we'll uncover the shocking truth about Keith Richards' unstoppable ritual and why medical experts call him a walking mystery. Keith Richards isn't just a guitarist, he's a survivor. For over 60 years, he's been the backbone of the Rolling Stones, outlasting countless trends, scandals, and even friends who didn't make it out of rock's wildest era alive. Despite quitting heroin and slowing down his drinking, Richards still clings to one bad habit: smoking. It's a ritual he's held onto since his teenage years, baffling doctors and fueling his status as one of music's greatest enigmas. Keith Richards was born on December 18, 1943, in Dartford, Kent. Raised in post-war Britain, his early years were defined by modest means and an escape into music. His grandfather, Augustus Theodore Gus Dupree, introduced him to the guitar, sparking a passion that would eventually change his life and music history. In 1961, fate intervened when Richards reunited with childhood friend Mick Jagger on a train platform. Jagger carried records by Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters, and the two bonded instantly over their shared love for American blues. Within a year, the Rolling Stones were formed. By the mid-1960s, the Stones were rock's bad boys, a sharp contrast to the Beatles' polished image. Richards' raw guitar riffs defined hits like Satisfaction and Jumpin' Jack Flash, while his personal life became equally infamous. His drug use escalated dramatically during the late 1960s and 1970s. He once joked in an interview, "I've never had a problem with drugs, only with policemen." This wasn't far from the truth. Richards was arrested multiple times for possession, most famously in Toronto in 1977 for heroin. Despite his chaos, Richards' musical genius never faltered. Biographer Victor Bockris wrote, "He was the ultimate contradiction, self-destructive yet unstoppable." Even after giving up heroin in 1978 and later scaling back alcohol, his most enduring vice, smoking, remained untouched. Richards himself admitted, "I gave up everything else, but I ain't giving up this." For fans and doctors alike, that statement became a defining emblem of his rebellious endurance. Keith Richards has smoked since his teens and never stopped. Today, even at 80, he reportedly smokes 20 cigarettes a day. This isn't hearsay. Richards himself confirmed it in interviews, laughing off concerns by saying, "I've been doing it so long, it feels like part of me." Medical experts are stunned. Pulmonologist Dr. John Mahoney once remarked, "Keith Richards is the exception to every rule. His lung function and survival defy standard medical expectations." Despite the undeniable dangers of smoking, Richards continues to tour, perform, and even outlast peers who led much healthier lives. Fans joke that nuclear war couldn't kill Keith Richards. But beneath the humor is a genuine question. How has he endured decades of cigarettes, late nights, and relentless stress with seemingly little consequence? Even Richards seems amused by it. In a 2018 interview, he quipped, "I ain't indestructible, but I've been close." The most defining moment that forced Keith Richards and the world to confront his mortality came in 2006. While vacationing in Fiji, Richards famously fell out of a tree. What was supposed to be a lighthearted attempt to pick coconuts ended in a severe head injury. He was rushed to a hospital in New Zealand, where doctors discovered a blood clot on his brain. For days, fans worldwide feared the worst. Newspapers ran headlines like, "Is this the fall that ends rock's toughest survivor?" Richards underwent emergency surgery and, remarkably, made a full recovery. But here's the twist. Even after this near-death experience, Richards didn't quit smoking. When asked about it months later, he casually replied, "You think that's what's going to stop me? Forget it." The Fiji accident marked a point where most people would radically overhaul their health habits. Instead, Richards doubled down. He told Rolling Stone, I quit heroin, I quit booze, but cigarettes? They're staying. For doctors, it was incomprehensible. Medical professionals expected long-term complications, but Richards returned to touring with the Rolling Stones less than a year later. The man who should have been resting was back on stage, guitar in hand, cigarette between his fingers. This moment crystallized his legend, a man who defied not just medical science, but also common sense. As Richards aged into his 70s and now 80s, the fascination with his resilience only grew. Each new photo of him lighting a cigarette made headlines. Tabloids labeled him the man who death forgot. Medical experts began openly commenting on his case. Dr. Andrew Bernstein, a cardiologist, noted in The Guardian, "Keith Richards is a fascinating anomaly. If we studied him, we might better understand why some individuals tolerate decades of exposure to known toxins." Meanwhile, Richards continued to fuel the myth with his own dry humor. He joked on The Tonight Show, "I plan to outlive all of you." Fans turned his survival into folklore. Social media buzzed with memes declaring him immortal and the last man standing of rock. Yet behind the humor, researchers quietly debated the factors at play: genetics, sheer luck, or an unusually robust constitution. By the late 2000s and 10s, Keith's persistence became less about rebellion and more about curiosity. How could an octogenarian, still smoking daily, perform 2-hour shows and keep pace with a grueling tour schedule? Even other musicians expressed awe. Ron Wood, his Rolling Stones bandmate, said in 2019, "Keith's like iron. He just keeps going. We don't even question it anymore." This growing public obsession escalated his story from rock lore into a genuine medical mystery. Keith Richards' refusal to quit smoking sparked intense public debate. For some, he became proof that rock stars live by their own rules. For others, he was an outlier who risked glamorizing dangerous habits. Health organizations often point out that Richards is the exception, not the example. The American Lung Association emphasized, Keith Richards' longevity is not representative. Smoking is linked to 480,000 deaths a year in the US alone. Yet fans remain captivated by his defiance. Each Rolling Stones tour sells out arenas worldwide, and crowds cheer not just for the music, but for the man himself, the living embodiment of survival against all odds. Even medical journals referenced his case. In 2020, the British Medical Journal highlighted Richards in a discussion on extreme survivorship, using him to explore the interplay of genetics and environmental resilience. Meanwhile, social media embraced his image as the indestructible pirate. Hashtags like "Be Like Keith" trended every time he was photographed on stage, cigarette in hand. Rather than damage his legacy, this habit became part of it, a symbol of grit that defined his mythos. Today, at 80, Keith Richards is still touring, still recording, and yes, still smoking. In a 2022 interview with CBS, he laughed off his own resilience, saying, "I've given up everything else. These cigarettes are my last friend." Experts continue to study cases like Richards to understand super-agers who defy typical health outcomes. Genetics likely plays a major role, but so does sheer endurance. Richards' own philosophy is simpler. Keep moving, keep playing, don't stop. Friends and bandmates marvel at his stamina. Mick Jagger once joked, if Keith quits smoking, he might actually live forever. To fans, Richards represents something rare, not just survival, but thriving in spite of it all. His story is a paradox that blends cautionary tale with inspiration, forcing us to confront how unpredictable and extraordinary the human body can be. Thanks for watching. Click here to check another video and make sure to subscribe to our channel.